we're talking about people. It doesn't matter how good they are. They're not going to be perfect every single time. You need to get good at building the muscle, both for you and for them, of this dance that is delegation. And if you put yourself in that position, dude, it's crazy what happens when you find people that really will run through walls for you. Like, you become weaponized as an entrepreneur.
Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Love podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and for the final time, I am going to apologize about my voice. I batch record my episodes. I had a cold. I'm recovering from it. So 6 episodes in a row have my raspy version of my voice. This is the last one. And I promise you, the next one will be me back to normal. But I am excited about this conversation today because I've got an amazing person talking about amazing things. For a lot of us, AI is an abstract thing. For a lot of us, even having a virtual assistant or an executive assistant is an abstract thing. And our guest today is going to kind of bring those things together in a way that makes a lot of sense. And I think that every business owner should have this. And we're going to dive into that, and you're going to understand what it is that we're talking about in just a minute. So my guest today is Kasim Aslam, and Kasim is a serial entrepreneur, author, and co-founder of Driven Mastermind and Pareto Talent. He recently released a book I just found out about called Hire, the proven system for finding top remote talent, which I have already just purchased on Amazon after learning about it literally 3 minutes ago. And I'm going to dive in and read it. But according to Kasim, it's the best book on hiring ever written. So I'm going to take his word for it, and I'm going to read it, and then I'll tell you if I agree. Kasim is a serial entrepreneur, has built 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses, including 2 successful exits, co-founder of Driven Mastermind, and the creator of Digital Marketers Paid Traffic Certification, a certification that I took, and somewhere along my journey of learning online marketing. Last year, he exited Solutions 8, one of the world's top Google ad agencies, and co-founded Pareto Talent, a company dedicated to helping entrepreneurs reclaim their time by matching them with world-class executive assistants. His work is grounded in insights gained as the founder of Solutions 8, one of the world's top Google ads agencies. Kasim is now preparing to release Hire. Actually, he did already. Groundbreaking book that distills the systems he used to build his company is designed to be the ultimate guide on hiring and delegation. Hire offers a proven framework for scaling a business without burning out. He has also authored 3 best-selling books and was named one of the top 50 digital marketing thought leaders in the U.S. Kasim, welcome to the Profit with Love podcast.
Thanks for having me, Moshe. I appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. So let's dive right in. Virtual assistants, executive assistants, not a new concept, right? A lot of people have been doing it. There's a ton of agencies around. We can get that talent from anybody, anywhere. Why go into that? What's different about what you do at Pareto?
Yeah. Why go into it? It came from on the heels of my exit. I built the #1 ranked Google Ads agency in the world. I sold it in October of 2022 to a SoftBank-backed MarTech company for a low 8-figure sum. And the due diligence process was the most painful thing I've ever gone through in my life. It was horrible. It was a 9-month proctology exam with a bunch of, Ivy League, Goldman Sachs douchebags who just sat there the whole time letting us know how stupid we were, how inadequate we were, how everything was horrible and broken, because that's their job. But the one cache of compliments I got on a repeated basis had to do with my staff. The thing I kept hearing over and over and over again is, where the hell do you find these people? They were blown away. And I had almost 100 employees, 80 employees and 20 some odd vendors and freelancers that might as well have been employees. And 6 were US based. The rest were around the world. And it was at a time where the majority of my contemporaries would only, quote unquote, outsource dummy work, grunt work, BPO. And then, all knowledge work, all smart work was reserved for the red, white, and blues. And I sort of took a different tact. I found some of the smartest people on the planet, and I gave them, what some people might consider to be really high-level positions. All of my Google Ads strategists were somewhere else: India, Latin America, 2 in Egypt, 1 in Australia, Eastern Europe. I had 1 in the States. And it resulted in a level of arbitrage that most media buying agencies just didn't have. To put that in specific terms, I had 40% margins consistently for 3 years in an industry that aims at 15% as a high watermark. And so hearing that over and over and over again kind of let me know, like, oh God, I think I'm onto something here. Like, I'd sort of cracked the code on attracting extraordinary talent internationally. And so me and my now business partner, fun story, my current business partner was actually my former EA. He and I took my best EA and I had him build a business for finding and training EAs. I used the stones to break the stones. And that was it, dude. Like, we kind of kicked the idea around a little bit and launched on a napkin, and it just took off. We have over 100 trained EAs at the moment. We're a premium. We're super expensive in as much as EAs are concerned. We're $3,000 a month, where you can find people who are charging $500 a month, but the difference is, and my thesis is, there's nothing more expensive than a cheap employee. And if you can take a really high-end adept employee and insert them into your business, the leverageability there is extraordinary. Like, what they're able to do and the output that they provide is really significant. And so far that seems to really prove true.
My team is going to listen through this podcast looking for the quotes that they could put onto social. Guys, that was it right there. There's nothing more expensive than a cheap employee. Make sure you grab that one. Okay. Yeah, I love this story. I love how you got here. And I love that you're not afraid to charge for the value that you're going to provide. And clearly, like, there is a path that is more expensive to get there because you have to find the right people. How do you define a good EA? What makes up a good EA?
It's funny, that role is the only that I know of where a job description is superfluous, right? Like, what I tell most employers when they go to hire is, if you don't have a very clearly defined job description, you're being greedy and you're not following the rules. An executive assistant is the exception. You basically say, I need you to scale me, the founder. And
right.
so
I need you to be my Swiss Army knife. You got to be able to do everything.
You nailed it. So I think a good EA is versatile. They're multifaceted. They're willing to be, they're willing to try. And that willingness to try is actually unusual, I think, from a personality perspective. Most employees, and even really good employees, dude, like, they need a box within which they fit. That's the comfort zone. And so the first thing to look for in a good executive assistant is somebody who's willing to do things even if they have to do it poorly. And that's the key. Like, you think like, oh, I want somebody who's good at everything. No, you don't. And no such person exists. What you really want is somebody who's willing to try everything, even if they know they're not going to be great at it, because very often done is way better than good, and good is way more costly than done. And sometimes done is just good enough. And that keeps the ball rolling. What I tell people is, I call it the 2-6-2 framework. You're going to give somebody 10 things to do. They're going to suck miserably at 2 of them. They're going to do 6 great, check the box, well done. You did your job. And they're going to do 2 better than any human you've ever met in your entire life. And we have this weird impulse. I think we're taught to do this, to where we go focus on the 2 things they suck at. And we say, like, okay, don't worry. We're going to get you there, and I'm going to buy you training, and we're going to do a performance improvement program, and you can shadow Jerry. Since he's hyper efficient, we might as well slow him down. Instead of just stop making them do those 2 things. And all of a sudden you have a miracle of an employee, because if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it spends its whole life thinking it's stupid. And that's what's fun about the EA role. Your EA should never be your EA for very long. It's a flywheel. It's an incubator. My first EA became my director of automations. My second EA became my director of social. My third EA became my CTO, managed my entire exit, and then is now my best friend and business partner. So I think your EA should be your EA for about 2 years. And if you haven't found a better, more ascended role for them, they're probably not a very good EA.
Yeah, I love that. And let me ask this, because I'm sure that some of my listeners are asking this question, which is, do I need this? Am I ready for it? Right? When is the right time? And the other piece of it is, sometimes when we describe an EA, it almost sounds like a COO. What is the difference between the two? Or is it like the EA can elevate into the COO? But more importantly, it's like, when, like who needs it and when do we need it? I know personally I need it, right? Like, we're having this conversation. I'm like, yes, sign me up. I'm ready. Like, I've been looking for this person. I've been trying to figure out how to fill that role. Do it for me, right? Like, I'm a big proponent of who, not how, right? Like,
Yep.
I don't need to go and figure it out. You find that person for me. You've clearly perfected this. But for our listeners, is there any sort of metric or knowing that, that I need it, or is it just like, hey, everyone needs one?
No, I don't think everyone needs one. I think early stage entrepreneurs, pre-rev entrepreneurs, and people that are sub 80% capacity not only shouldn't have an EA, but they're going to break them. The relationship doesn't work when you're not busy enough, because then you start finding reasons to obsess over the granularities, which is how you ruin that relationship. So what I tell people is, if you're just getting started and you're sub 80% capacity, it's too early. And the thing to do there is to get really good at using ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a delegation framework, especially when you start using it in an agentic method. And so when you use any agentic AI, you're basically teaching yourself how to delegate to an EA. Once you're at 80% capacity, you have to have an executive assistant. If you don't, I think you're being penny wise and pound foolish with your time. Most entrepreneurs are at 120% capacity. And the thing that's really funny too is I watch people do this all the time, because this is what I do for a living now. I had a buddy recently hire one of my EAs, and he messaged me. He's like, honestly, dude, I'm really disappointed. And we hopped on a call, and I was like, what's going on? And he's like, she's just so slow. It takes her 4 hours to do something I could do in 30 minutes. And I'm like, well, one, you've been doing this for 20 years and you're literally a world authority. Two, what do you bill your time out at? And he's like, I bill at $1,500 an hour. I'm like, great. So you're paying her $20 an hour, or whatever it is she's paying her. And there's 4 hours. So it's costing you $80 to do something that would otherwise cost you $750. Like, you were thinking about this in the exact wrong way. And so many entrepreneurs do that. They judge the assistant according to massively unreasonable criteria, and they're not looking at the arithmetic appropriately. It's not about how long it takes them to do. It's about how much time you free up from yourself. And entrepreneurs, and this is something that we've studied now, because again, I'm in the business, they spend upwards of 60% of their time on tasks that are, what would you call them? Superfluous to their unique offering. So they're doing a bunch of things that somebody else can do. If somebody else can do it, they should do it, because you're the least scalable part of your business. And so once you reach 80% of your capacity, what I tell people is that's when you need to start training somebody to begin to take things over for you. And it's all of the things that you're afraid to give up. Those are the best things to give away, like inbox management, calendar management, scheduling. I love to have EAs do research. But what I also tell people is delegate projects, not tasks. If you're delegating tasks, you're not really delegating, you're micromanaging. Hand an entire project over and then let them fail. These we're talking about people. It doesn't matter how good they are. They're not going to be perfect every single time. You need to get good at building the muscle, both for you and for them, of this dance that is delegation. And if you put yourself in that position, dude, it's crazy what happens when you find people that really will run through walls for you. Like, you become weaponized as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I love that. Tell me a little bit more about the AI side of things. So you mentioned, like, get really good at ChatGPT. It's an agentis tool, and you let it train you on how to delegate things and stuff like that. But there's a whole world of AI out there, and I know myself as a business owner, right? Like, as much as I want to be an adopter of new technology, I also don't have the time, bandwidth, or energy to be figuring it out and learning it. And by the time that I figure one thing out, the next thing is out, right? Like, it's been replaced already. Is there a way to use the EA to help us adopt AI into our business?
So I call them AI-enabled EAs. And by the way, you don't need to hire one of my people for this to be true. I think this should be true of every employee you have. The incentive to our employees should be to utilize AI, and then to document that utilization. That second part is really, 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 really important. Here's what I mean. The way I see business owners, I own a company with some partners called techstack.com, and all we do is AI implementation. It's just helping businesses understand how to use AI. And so I have a lot of insight into this particular topic. People are approaching AI implementation from a top-down perspective. Here's what that means. They think of themselves as think like 1940s manufacturing plant, Detroit, Michigan, You've got all the assembly lines on the floor, and then you've got the mezzanine with the fat cats and the cigars sitting around drinking scotch and barking orders. So the fat cat approaches the mezzanine and sees assembly line 5 and says, I want that entire thing AI'd. Go AI that thing. Here's my AI mallet, and I'm going to hit the assembly line with the AI mallet. Here's what happens. True story. I have a friend who has a multi-8-figure business that has a strong sales arm attached to it. And he's been doing very well for a very long time. And he got seduced by an AI implementation agency that works specifically with calls. And he ran a test with his call center, which is where the majority of all of his income is generated, is inside of, he does really high-end lead generation. And then he has the setters and the closers that will go through and do the thing that everybody knows sales teams do. So he runs a test using this AI tool for 30 days. And the AI tool not just matches the performance of the people, but it does it at a literal fraction of the cost. We're talking like less than 10% of the cost of all these people. And so he rips the Band-Aid off, lets these people go. It's taken him a decade to build this badass team, lays them all off, and for 180 days is minting money. And then there's this precipitous cliff. And all of a sudden revenue just dries up completely. And then he's a smart guy. He goes and he does the autopsy and he looks back and he realizes, the AI tool was closing deals that had already been warmed up by my amazing sales team. And we had a 180-day pipeline. And as soon as we ran out of that pipeline, the tool wasn't performing anywhere near as well with ultra cold leads. So, he made a classic mistake of, it was almost inbuilt confirmation bias because he was closing people that were already in the middle of his funnel. And that's the way that people are using AI. They're saying, here's my entire process and I'm going to AI this process. The right way to do it is, going back to my assembly line analogy, if you try to take all of assembly line 5 and replace it with AI, it's going to result in something akin to catastrophic damage. Instead, what you want is on assembly line 5, let's say there's 10 employees, and one employee's name is Patrick. And Patrick has been on that assembly line his entire life for 20 years. And Patrick's dad was on the assembly line, and his grandfather was on the assembly line. And I'm being a little hyperbolic because what I'm trying to say is Patrick understands that process better than any human alive, better than you ever will, Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner, better than you could, because you don't do the job, nor should you, right? And Patrick is responsible for 5 steps on the assembly line. So there's 10 people on the assembly line. Each of them averages 5 steps. That's 50 steps. Patrick has 5 of them. And now you start to see some of the complexity and why we can't just hit things with an AI mallet. And you incentivize Patrick to look at every single individual step. And if Patrick has just enough knowledge as to how AI works, Patrick will say, okay, AI cannot do step 1. It doesn't have the optical recognition necessary to properly perform quality assurance in terms of intake. So I need to do step 1. It can do step 2, but not as well as me. But God, does it just outrun me on step 3. I'm going to start using AI for step 3. Step 4, I'm confused by. I'll probably need help. And then step 5, it can't do. So all of a sudden, Patrick's efficiency just improved because 20% of his workload was taken off of his plate completely because AI is able to do step 3. And then over time, if Patrick is kept up to date and does a good enough job at continuing to revisit some of these steps, it eats half of step 1 and some of step 2 and all of step 4, but can't eat step 5. And slowly, you have penetration. You get AI to start gradually taking on a task-by-task basis over what it is that Patrick's doing. Now, this only works if Patrick is incentivized to do that, because otherwise, what is Patrick doing? He's working himself out of a job. So there's a whole conversation about how to properly incentivize someone to do it, which, to be honest with you, it's a per business discussion. But if you can do that effectively, that's how you begin to integrate AI into your business. It's bottom up, has to be, can't be top down. It's bottom up. And if you do AI integration from a bottom up perspective, you will be the most efficient entity in your space by a trillion miles. And I'm not even exaggerating because it's impossible to exaggerate because AI scales to the end of what would be necessary from a scalable perspective, right? Meaning there's no limit. There's no upper limit when you're actually using some of these tools. And so that's the way to think about it. It's harder. It's more difficult, it's tedious, and it's the only way to approach the process.
Yeah, I love the analogy. I love the explanation. It really makes a lot of sense, puts it in context. But then when I start thinking about my clients, right, law firms, and we start questioning like, okay, so So how do you like spearhead this as a project? Like if you don't know AI, like how do you determine which person should try to be implementing AI into their daily routine or the things that they're doing? Is it just kind of like a top down a mandate for, that you give, like, hey, everybody, almost like when you're trying to hire somebody, you're like, hey, there's $1,000 incentive or a $5,000 incentive if you bring in if you fill this position. Is it are we just kind of screaming that from the rooftop and hoping that people will want to take advantage of it, or can you be more strategic with it?
No, I think you can be a lot more strategic. We actually have quite a few law firms as clients. We have a really strong referral partner in the space. And the thing that I found that is interesting, the firms that equip their, especially their associates with EAs, it's all the grunt work these associates are doing. And they're not inexpensive resources. Associates, paralegals, so at the top of the dominance hierarchy, it might actually be difficult because you're talking about somebody who has a high billable and they're the repository of knowledge. That's not necessarily something that you're going to be able to clone or outsource, but they have a support ecosystem built around them. That's my experience of law firms anyway, from the outside looking in. And that support ecosystem from a cost of goods perspective is extraordinarily expensive. And so if you think about these associate attorneys or the paralegals, even an associate attorney, I don't know what they are, entry level, 120 to 150 grand, and a paralegal is probably $60 to $72,000. Well, what happens when you equip that person with an EA, right? So you tack on another $3,000 a month or whatever your EA costs you, and suddenly that person's capacity is literally doubled because all of the grunt work, the research, the filing, the proofreading, you know what I mean? Like those things that person has to do, so much of it can be, they can utilize a really adept helper. And if the EA, what you really want is you want somebody who's proactive, willing to try anything, like we talked about in the very beginning, watching you work. Because if you really think about it, this is the old school method of apprenticeship. This is how all professions manifested throughout all of time up until recently. You took a young, motivated person and you just had them watch the local blacksmith, the local printer, the local attorney, the local politician, the local farmer, right? And by watching and through osmosis, all of a sudden they're like, hey, I think I can do that. I can try that. I can take this. I can whatever. And then they maximize the value of the time of the person that was the artisan or the journeyman carpenter or the whoever. And so I think if you really want to begin using AI in a way that's functional, have everybody that does work that you feel could be AI'd, let's say, make sure they have a resource that understands those tools. It's the resource that'll bridge the gap. Because trying to take an associate attorney and get them to learn AI, there's no way. They just spent 18 years in school. You know what I mean? Like it's an unfair ask and request. It's like I became an expert in this and I'll go become an expert in that. Instead, you want another resource to sit there and be the bridge and then build the bridge for you on a granular level. And then it's those levels of granularity that interestingly scale. That's the irony. You're taking that which does not scale. You're taking a process that does not scale in order to build something that can scale.
Yeah, it's almost like a catch-22 or an ironic, it should be part of Alanis Morissette's song. But so is the right place to start with the EA working with the legal assistant, which is like the lowest portion of that legal delivery arm, or in a sales team, right? Like, is there a place for the EA to be supporting the salespeople to make them more efficient? Like, where are the best places to look to give support to your people?
Well, again, if you're good with a hammer, you think everything is a nail. But the way that I view executive assistants is it's arbitrage. If you have a resource that's costing you more than the EA, who's doing work that the EA can do, you're by literal definition wasting money. And most of your resources are doing that. Most of your higher end resources, regardless of what their role is, there's brick and mortar work. The brick work is work that they need to do. The mortar work is work that they have to do to support the bricks. but can be outsourced to anybody. Go maximize the value of your entire staff. So you mentioned the sales team. Abso-freaking-lutely, yes. Sales is mostly mortar, right? It's the conversation on with the client that they really need to be there for, but everything else in terms of like scheduling, follow-up, messaging, contract drafting, especially from templates, like all of that can be an executive assistant. And then you just maximize the value of your high-end sales team by, again, I'm trying not to be hyperbolic, but use your imagination here. You know, I mean, if 80% of your sales team's time is spent along the periphery of what they're most valuable at, well, what happens when you take those tasks off? You just 5x your sales team. And that math can't not work in your favor. And I think it's true for every individual role. So the thing would be, and attorneys are going to be great at this because they're so good at tracking their time, look at the expenditure of time. I look at expenditure of time in 4 columns. You have your grunt work, which is something any idiot can do. You have your skilled labor, which is something that somebody needs a little bit of training. You have your high end, and then you have what I call your neo. And your neo is the stuff that's like Steve Jobs, Ellen DeGeneres. It's the stuff that only that person is capable of. And our highest and best use is pushing ourselves into columns 3 and preferably 4 as much as is possible. Most of your team spends most of their time, and I mean that statistically, 51% of the time is spent in columns 1 and 2. And all of columns 1 and 2 can be replaced by an EA. And so for a couple of $1,000s a month, you can take every single resource that you have and probably double their efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, doubling efficiency on your entire staff is not actually a good thing. So you don't want to do that overnight, right? Because you don't have enough volume to push through. So you're not going to be able to realize that efficiency. But for many, that's not the case. Especially a lot of the firms that I work with, there's inefficiencies on the marketing and the sales side. So there really is the pipeline there. And if we can fix that, then we can instantly increase the volume that the business is doing. Which is an incredible thought to even think about. As you were talking, like I'm just thinking in my brains through the different clients that I have, the different ways that they do things. One of the things that even the best of sales leaders just don't have the bandwidth to do enough of is listening to sales conversations, to critique them and find the areas of improvement, right? I imagine that would be a great use of an EA's time to be able to go through and listen to a ton of those calls and grade them and find, now you can find numerically, like where the biggest area of improvement of each salesperson is, because it's different from salesperson to salesperson. I know that there are AI automated tools that do this, but I definitely think that there's room there as well. When you're having conversations with business owners about this whole concept, right? It's easy to think, I need to like have an EA for every person on my team, or is there a system or an approach that we can use? Do you have everybody on your team do a time audit? Like, what's a systematic way that you can go through your business and figure out, where do I start?
Yeah. So what I like to do, I call it soccer ball delegation. You take every single task or project that's on your list, especially the tasks that are the highest yield. So what are the projects, projects that you've been putting off are my favorite. What's a project that would be the highest yield? So to give you a really good example, I believe, and forgive me, Moshe, if I'm about to overstep my bounds here, because I'm not a legal strategist, but I'll just say this out loud and then you can yell at me if you want to. I think every attorney should have written a book. Every attorney should have written a book, because every attorney is a thought leader, right? Like, I actually don't want an attorney that's not a thought leader. And so I don't care what practice area you're in. It could be family law or patents or criminal defense or what, insert practice area here. I want to work with the attorney that's quote unquote written the book. And most of them can't get around to it. They know they need it. They know they want it. They know they should do it, and they can't get around to the damn thing. And so if you were to put yourself in a position where you had a really adept EA and you said, hey, I practice whatever it is, criminal defense. I want to write a book on criminal defense, and spend 10 to 15 minutes just explaining your core thesis, your positioning, your framing. This is the way that I approach things. I want you to go to school on every YouTube video, current book, podcast, checklist, cheat sheet, download, whatever, from other people on this particular topic. And I just want you to aggregate what you think the table of contents should look like. And that's the reason I call it soccer ball delegation, is because if you watch soccer, and my 8-year-old is obsessed with it, and so I end up watching a lot of it. The thing that's interesting about soccer is for 99% of the game, they're not trying to score. They're just trying to get the ball down to the other end of the field. And that's the real key to delegation. Stop trying to score. Stop trying to get somebody to do something that you feel is immediately monetizable. Just take everything on your plate and kick it down the field. Because if you can get it close to the goal, what you might find out is like, oh, this actually just got a lot easier. Now all I need to do is tweak this, add this, do this, and bam, I'm done. But there are these projects that you'll never get to yourself. And there's a billion. Everybody needs to do a website rebuild. Everybody needs to start a YouTube channel. Everybody needs to start a podcast. Everybody needs to follow up with the 150 prospects from last month that we didn't get to. Everybody needs to go through and listen to the call recordings. Everybody needs to look at their old emails. Everybody needs to answer the social messenger. Everybody needs to go through LinkedIn, and you know what I mean? Like, and on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And there's a trillion things that you will never get to. Kick the ball down the field. And if you have somebody who's not an idiot, which is, most people who are like, oh no, I tried outsourcing and it didn't work. And then if I ever dig into it, the same thing happens every single time. I'm like, well, what happened? And they're like, yeah, I found some kid in Bangladesh and I asked him to make 5,000 cold calls a day. And, would you believe it? 9 days into it, he burnt out. And I'm like, well, you don't say. But if you find a person and you give them semi-meaningful work and you let them work from home on a semi-flexible schedule, earning more than they'd make domestically, like, you find miracles. And those miracles are capable of what I would term as incalculable value, like helping you write a book. As a matter of fact, it's so funny we're talking about this. I just got this in the mail. This is the not for resale pre-version of a book that me and a business partner wrote. It's the AEO blueprint. I own a company called AEO, which is Answer Engine Optimization. It's a new version of SEO. And you'll notice that on the book, it's written by Kasim Aslam, Perry Belcher, and Julian Lopez. Here's the funny thing about this, Moshe. I didn't write a word of this book. I have a young man who works for me. His name's Julian Lopez. He manages a 6-person data team that has done research on AEO for the last year, aggregates all of that research, and then put it together into a book that I've slapped my name onto because I'm the one that helped manage the book, and I maybe, get led and guided the framework in terms of what did I want to get across the point. So I funded the research, and so I get to put my name on the book, and now I get to be the world authority in AEO. And I feel like every attorney on the planet could do that exact same thing, and it would cost them next to nothing, but they have to kick the ball down the field, and you have to have somebody to do that with. And that's what's really fun about an EA is you can do that with everything. And they're not going to be good at everything. That's the other thing to accept. They're going to be great at some things, bad at others, and then it's up to you to massage that relationship.
Love it. Kasim, we're out of time, so we gotta shut this episode down. But man, there's so much still to unpack, and really, really enjoyed this conversation. And folks, if this has you thinking like, hey, I need this, you probably do. So why not? Why not just explore it? Try one, and see how it goes. I like to close out every episode with 2 things. 1, what's one parting piece of advice or wisdom you'd like to leave with our listeners? And number 2, how can they find out more about you, work with you? Where would you send them?
Parting advice, I think, is do it poorly. The thing that holds everybody back is they try to do everything well. Do it poorly to begin with. Be bad and just ship it. And I think that's the path to success. If you want to follow me further, if you want my book for free, if you want to hire one of our EAs, you can just go to kasim.me, kasim.me. That has all my social links, all my offers. The book is free to download if you want the PDF version. And if somebody wants an EA, I'd love to help them.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you, Kasim, for being here. Folks, we're here every single Thursday with a brand new episode. Hit the subscribe button in your podcast player on your YouTube channel so you get notified when we go live. This has been awesome. It's been an awesome day for me. It's a podcast recording day. Just closing out the 6th recording. I'm done. Ready to kick my feet up. No, I'm ready to go pick up my kids. That's what I'm really ready to do. But been really, really a great conversation, and something that and I'm not kidding when I say this. I'm going to be hiring an EA from Pareto, from Kasim's team. He had me at hello, as they say, right? Like, just convinced that this is definitely the next move. I'm not new to it, right? Like 70% of my team is international. It's not like we don't have international folk that are working for us, but I don't have somebody of that caliber, AI enabled. We that is like it's like next leveling whatever you were doing before in your VA hiring. And I really think that that's the new frontier for growing your business, which is, starting from that bottom up and starting to implement AI in the systems and processes you're doing, and just really leveraging that so you can unlock the profit margin, so you have more money to market more than your competitors, so that you can scale bigger and faster. So folks, what are we waiting for? If you think this might be a good idea, but you have no idea where to start because you don't even know where you're going with your business, and you want to kind of get clarity around that, go to profitwithlaw.com/strategy session. We offer a free 30-minute call with you where we'll help you identify what it is that you want to do in the next 12 months, what's getting in your way, how do you get past that, and if it makes sense for you to work with us, then we'll offer you that as well. profitwithlaw.com/strategy session. Book your call now. We'll see you next Thursday. Take care. Have a great day.